Hi everyone. Today I'm going to go over one of your assignments with you, which is the attendance at a 12-step meeting. And I'm going to show you a list in just a little bit about where you might be able to go. This assignment is on D2L. It's under Materials and Content. And I would suggest that you be ready to take a few notes here that are going to be pretty important about the assignment. And I'll go over this with you. So you should know that this area is pretty familiar with this assignment. We've been doing it for about 20 years. So it comes as no big surprise to anybody who attends meetings. But it's essential that you pick an open meeting. And it can be any kind of 12-step meeting, but it's got to be an open one. There's open and there's closed. So in the old days, open meetings were to allow area professionals to attend and learn more about addiction, since, so few people seem to. And these days, it seems like open meetings means you can bring your family and spouse and that kind of thing. But you, as a student, this is kind of the original intent of such a thing. Like I said, I will give you a list, and you'll be able to tell if they're open or closed meetings. The list isn't necessarily 100% accurate because meetings come and go. But if you find yourself at a closed meeting, you should just ask whether or not you can be there. But we'll try and avoid that if at all possible. So let's take a look at the assignment here. Obviously, I expect you to be respectful and discreet in doing this assignment. In other words, behave yourself when you're at the meetings. Don't, sit in the back and get distracted with side talk and laughing and giggling and stuff like that. And I'm happy to say in 20 years I've never had that problem with anybody. So please don't be the first. So what it says is, if you're asked why you're there, tell them something like, well, you want to learn more about this program. Or you can just say, look, it's an assignment from an instructor of mine in a substance abuse class. So I'm here to learn a little bit more. And you're going to find, I think, that the vast majority of members are more than happy to talk to you and tell you all about Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or Al-Anon or anything about their story. I think that's a real positive for around here. A couple of things. When you go to a meeting, if you get there a little early, and I hope you will, don't be surprised if you see some members standing around outside smoking or something. And they're going to look at you, right? Because they haven't seen you before. But, just be friendly and say hello. And you might ask them, is this where the meeting is? And is it an open meeting and everything else like that? Believe me, people want to talk to you about it, but I totally get why you might be a little bit nervous kind of entering the place. If there is no one out there and you go to wherever the meeting is, you might ask somebody who is chairing that meeting. So we don't have like any bosses or anything like that at meetings, but you have somebody who's responsible for sort of conducting the meeting. And I would go up and just introduce yourself and tell that person why you happen to be there, so that they're prepared and can help you also with that meeting. So, going on with your assignment, the second paragraph. When you attend a meeting, you cannot take notes, right? because that's what the anonymous part means. It also means confidentiality. You leave everything right there. So, you can talk to people afterwards if you want to, and I would totally suggest that you do that. And I've given you all these questions to answer, but listen, taking initiative helps your grade quite a bit. To be that invested or to be a little curious and ask some of your own questions. I certainly hope that you'll plan to do that. And another thing I would warn you about is as the meeting gets going, eventually they will do introductions, and people are going to go around and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an alcoholic, or I'm a addict, or I'm an Al-Anon, or whatever the 12-step meeting is. And when it comes to you, just say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm a visitor tonight. That's all you have to say, right? And they'll know, they'll understand what it is. So let's take a little bit of a look at the questions. Now, when you do this paper, I want you to answer these questions in order. You can number them if you want. You can just retype the question itself and then your answer below. But I need to know what question you're answering without having to kind of go through it all and parse it out. So starting with the first question, what meeting did you attend? So in other words, what kind of 12-step meeting was it? Where was it located? What day did you go? What time? Who did you go with? Why did you happen to pick this particular meeting? So I would really like it if you went in small groups rather than going one at a time. And by small groups, I mean 4 people, somewhere in that neighborhood. But if you get too big, you might have as many people in your group as there are at the meeting, and that's not the point to it. The second one, make note of your emotional state before and after the meeting. I think that's kind of self-explanatory. Just check yourself, check your feelings and emotions, and see if they're different from beginning to end, and maybe why it changed in your opinion. The third one, so what happened at the meeting? What was it like? Were you welcomed there? And this has, something to do kind of with the, before the meeting actually starts. But, sit down and look around, and there aren't assigned seats. And just take in what the members are doing, and, if they're talking with each other, hanging out, or if they're kind of distant or separate from each other, whatever it may be. And when I ask, were you welcomed, I mean like when you went in, was there a greeter at the door? Were there people outside who said hello? Did somebody greet you before that meeting when you went down there or into the meeting itself? Hopefully you were. So what was the format? By this, I'm asking, was it a discussion about the 12 steps? And they'll make that very clear. Was it simply a discussion meeting? And at some point, somebody will say, well, let's discuss this topic. They may break out into groups, by the way. And hopefully you guys, if they do that, you guys will be in different groups too, so you really get a different feel for everybody else that's in your group. You don't want the same thing, identically or anything like that. So it could be discussion. Some meetings are just birthday meetings, meaning they use that evening to hand out chips or coins for people that are celebrating certain milestones in sobriety, 3, 6, 9 months, a year and a half, all that sort of thing. And when it's a birthday meeting, sometimes they have a speaker that's brought in, and sometimes it's just doing the birthdays and then using the rest of the time for a little bit of discussion or something like that. And the last category is a speaker meeting, where they bring somebody in to share a little bit about their experience. And they do that for the entire meeting time, which typically is an hour long. What we say about people is that we tell others a little bit about what it used to be like, what happened, and what it's like now. That's just kind of the bottom line to sharing in meetings like that. I want you to keep track of what I call the rituals and be able to describe them. I'll give you a little spoiler warning here. There's going to be a lot of reading probably beforehand, before it really gets down to business. They'll be reading out of various books and cards and whatever else. But I want you to, remember what those rituals happen to be. You're going to find that a lot of meetings do exactly the same ones. There's a reason for that. And I want you, I want your impression of what that was about, what it was like, and that sort of thing. The next, how do you think members reacted to your presence? For the most part, we've always had very, very positive reactions. But, take it a little bit further than that about whether or not they were helpful and what they did to help you and how you felt about it and, all those kinds of things. On some rare occasion, if people are taken by surprise, maybe they won't be too happy, but we've had maybe one or two cases that happen to be like that. The next question, did you get the impression that AA was a religion? That's always been a controversial topic. The Supreme Court of the United States did determine that AA was a religion, and what that had to do with was whether or not veterans hospitals could force people to attend AA, and if it's regarded as a religion, then no. The courts force people into AA all of the time. And what I think most AA members would tell you is that no, it's not a religion, it's not an organized religion, but that doesn't mean there aren't elements similar to organized religion. So it's your opinion that I'm interested in. I want you to be able to give me your impression and back up why it is that you have the opinion that you do. That's what's really important in answering this. Did you feel there was any sense of coercion, brainwashing, or force feeding? Some people do feel that way, especially people that are sort of anti-AA, and there are many other groups and approaches to dealing with addiction problems. So, sometimes AA isn't their choice, and they feel that there are people who feel like attending groups is absolutely unnecessary, and that there's this format that you must follow. You have to accept higher powers, and you have to be abstinent, and all those kinds of things. So if you feel that that's there, that's fine. You just put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and think about what you would feel were you going there or attending there. Another issue out there is whether or not this disease model, and AA, even though they don't really talk about it so much that way, AA really does follow that sort of thinking. And the controversy is just that some people feel like if we refer to it as a disease, then it absolves the individual of all responsibility for their problem. So listen to the way people talk about their lives, about what it used to be like and what happened. So do you get the sense that they take no responsibility for the consequences of that? Or do they take any responsibility for the drinking or the drug use or the Al-Anon behavior? It really just depends. Are there any steps that you would personally balk at? Uh, so there are 12 steps, obviously, to a 12-step group. And it may or may not be on the wall, depending on where you happen to attend your meeting. If it's not up there and you want to take a look at the steps, you can ask them if they have any pamphlets or that kind of thing. Or you can just simply look it up online. You know, you can find it absolutely anywhere. And I think if you were really smart, you would look it up before you went to the meeting and get a good feel for all of those steps and what you think might make you uncomfortable or hesitant to do. So as future professionals, would you send a client to this meeting? And I'm really talking about that specific meeting. Believe me, every meeting is different, just because there's different personalities. That's all that it is. There's an old saw that all it takes to start a new AA meeting is two people with a resentment and a coffee pot. And that's really about the size of it. A lot of people attend certain meetings not just because it happens to be a convenient day or night or time, but because they like the vibe of that particular group of people. So, yeah, would you send people to that particular meeting and explain a little bit about why you would or wouldn't? But also, would you, as a future professional, send people to attend 12 steps in general, right? So it's kind of there's two issues involved there. As you think about it, are there any kind of people you think would not be appropriate to attend that meeting? Here's a little hint. There are. But I want you to think about it and who you think might have some trouble with that. So finally, to wrap it up, your overall feelings about the meeting and the assignment. What did you learn? Were you surprised by anything? Do you think the assignment was useful? Why or why not? Why do you think I gave the assignment? Did you have any stereotypes of alcoholics before you attended? And do you now have the same stereotypes? Don't forget, you know, if you've taken the initiative to ask some of your own questions or offer some of your own opinions or comments, I think that's very helpful, and I hope that you do that kind of thing. But these are the basic questions that you should answer. If you have any questions about it, you can contact me, you know, by email, or come visit me in the office and I'll answer you just as soon as I can. So don't forget, this assignment and a list of all of the meetings are going to be on D2L. Let me show you what the handout is. So you are going to have the handout on D2L that's going to give you a list of AA meetings, Narcotics Anonymous meetings, Al-Anon meetings, and Gamblers Anonymous meetings. You should know there's probably a few hundred different types of 12-step meetings, like for smoking and cocaine and sex addiction and love addiction and all those kinds of things, but it doesn't mean we have it here. So you'll see that this is all broken down by day, by time, and it'll tell you whether or not it's an open meeting or a closed meeting. And like I told you earlier, maybe it won't be 100% accurate because meetings do change and it takes a while for these lists to catch up to all of that. And there are also a listing of meetings in other communities in case you want to attend back home or something like that. Sometimes students know alcoholics or they have family members that are alcoholics, and feel free to attend with them if that's what you want to do. Now, if you happen to be an addict who's attending 12-step meetings, no, I don't want you to write up your own group. I want you going to a completely different group and seeing what that's like compared to yours. Maybe it won't be different. Maybe it'll be significantly different, okay? So all the towns, times, days, whether or not it's open or closed, and I'm sure you can find something there. Okay? So again, any questions, get a hold of me, and I hope you enjoy the